Latoshia Daniels, a woman from Little Rock, Arkansas, is on trial in Memphis, Tennessee currently for the murder of her ex-lover, a pastor, Brody's Perry, and the attempted murder of Brody's Perry's wife, who by the grace of God survived this shooting. The prosecution says that Latoshia Daniels bought that gun in Little Rock, Arkansas. And if you look up how long it takes to get from Little Rock, Arkansas to Collierville, there's no dispute that she had time to think, that she had time to change her mind. First degree murder suggests that there was time for cool contemplation. If you are emotional, you had time to calm down. Now, don't get me wrong, even though intent, according to the law, can be formed in just minutes or even seconds, the drive that Latoshia Daniels took after she bought that gun in Little Rock, Arkansas, from Little Rock to Collierville, which is pretty much a subdivision of Memphis, Tennessee, that is almost a 3-hour drive. So the state is saying emotional, almost 3 hours, you have time to calm down. You have time to change your mind. So yes, Latoshia Daniels is being accused of cold-blooded murder because in 2 hours and 50 minutes or more, a person has time for what the law calls cool contemplation. Now let me get to the point of this video. According to the defense, Latoshia Daniels, she grew up with an abusive father who was a minister, that she married twice, divorced twice, and that both of those husbands were abusive to her, and that what took her into that church in Little Rock, Arkansas, was to seek counseling involving her second divorce, and that in just the second counseling session with Pastor Brody's Perry, he kissed her and a sexual affair began, and that Brody's Perry allegedly said, listen, we can have an ethical and monogamous relationship because you and my wife, you can be like sister wives. Sister wives, right? Fundamentalist Christians believe that a man of the faith can have more than one wife. Plural marriage. Is that what the church was in Little Rock, Arkansas? Is that what the church was that Brody's Perry took a job with in Memphis? Were they into fundamentalism? Was that a part of the dogma that he could have multiple wives in the eyes of God and it not be a sin? There is a huge part of me that says what Latoshia Daniels' defense laid out was an explanation, a motive that actually drove her to murder. So how is Latoshia Daniels was emotional a defense to first-degree murder and attempted murder? Because if the defense can convince the jury that Latoshia Daniels was extremely emotional, then they can kind of weaken the fact that Latoshia Daniels was able to form intent, that she was not thinking clearly. And if you are not thinking clearly, can you really form an intent to commit murder? Double murder. When Daniels was originally arrested for this crime, I was on X, then known as Twitter. And I put on Twitter, I asked the question on Twitter, does it matter that Latoshia Daniels was having this sexual affair with a pastor? Does that carry extra weight? And I was shocked by the people in my comments who said yes. Commenter said that pastors often have an influence that people without that label don't have, and that the title First Lady, being a pastor's wife, carries with it its own kind of weight, its own kind of credibility, its own kind of respect that comes automatically with being First Lady, who we call the pastor's wife. Do you all think that Latoshia Daniels was driven to the edge because Brody's Perry was a pastor and that somehow his influence was different if she had been having an affair with, let's say, a supervisor or a manager at the local Starbucks or the local Target? Do you think that Brody's Perry's title had something to do with Latoshia Daniels not being able to get past this affair? Or Or could it be that what Latoshia Daniels' attorneys describe, the father who was a minister and abusive, two husbands abusive, that if she would have had an affair with a man who was the manager of the local Target, that if he had broken her heart, she wouldn't have gone over the edge, that she wouldn't have driven almost 3 hours to try and kill him and his wife? I'll say this. Any person that's in the role of a counselor or a therapist, I've heard often that the person that they're counseling, that they are giving therapy to, will often develop a crush on them. According to the defense, Brody's Perry, he actually made the move on Latoshia Daniels. Do you all believe that Brody's Perry, in his role as pastor and counselor, took advantage of an emotionally vulnerable woman who had suffered years of abuse at the hands of various men that she should have been able to trust, her father, both husbands, and that it's not first-degree murder, but that is a lesser form of murder, say second-degree murder or manslaughter? Let me know what you think.